Hi there, welcome back. It's been quite a while since I did a restoration and I thought it was about time I got this guy done. This is a German radio, tube radio, and it's actually a brand that I haven't recorded any restorations of before, but I've done one or two of them. It's a Nordmende. So again, German radio, late 50s. And the reason I say late 50s is that this is a particular export model which is not clearly identified so far as to which model exactly it is. You'll see in a minute why. But what we have here is the usual situation. Volume control on the left. This thing actually has a switch here. The back is spinning loosely, don't know what that does, we'll find out soon enough. Then we have on the right hand side this is something called a shortwave microscope, the back one. That is like a bandpass, limit the bandpass, reduce the width of the bandpass or increase it so you get more selectivity or more sensitivity. The front here is the tuning. Now everything is pretty grummy, as you can see. These are supposed to be brass, if I'm not mistaken, and it's anything but at the moment. What you'll see here is we have 4 shortwave bands and 1 broadcast band, medium wave, no FM, which is a shame because those are the ones I actually prefer to restore. But this one is something else which the others don't have, and I'll show you in a minute. Let's go to the controls. You have bass on the left there, the phono switch, medium wave, broadcast, the 4 shortwave switches, and then the treble control. What I have discovered is that the tuning does work, if I can find it. Oh, maybe not. Can't see the pointer. But anyway, the pointer, I believe the pointer was showing a little while ago, but something's wrong with it. Anyway, we'll see. I don't know if it works, so we're taking this one step at a time. Up here you've got the preset tone selectors for speech, orchestra, and solo. This thing is called a Phonosuper. And the reason it's called a Phonosuper is that besides the radio, this thing actually has a built-in gramophone. You open the top, there's a gramophone. Yeah, this has seen better days. Our speed controls. There's 0, which is the off position here. This thing is a little bit creepy, but anyway, that is completely dried and cracked. Don't even know if the needle's in here, we'll find out later. But it has a gramophone, that's why it's called the Phonosuper. So when you select phono down here, you're selecting the phonograph at the top. Now in terms of condition, this isn't bad at all. Let's have a look at that. The body has got no major damage to it, but there's a hell of a lot of little paint specks everywhere. So this thing is obviously in a room that was painted. You can see those all over the place. But the actual woodwork is in pretty good shape. So it should be quite easy to get this thing sparkling again. All the brass work is in bad shape, but that's normal as well. So all those brass rings and the plastic, everything needs to be pretty properly restored. It shouldn't be too tough. And then the grill cloth, with the exception of a few threads being pulled here, is generally in pretty good condition. It seems to have one big speaker over here, and then the 2 on the left and the right hand side. The condition of the gramophone I've already shown you. Needs some major work over there. The hinging seems to work quite well. Other than a few surface scratches, the top seems to be pretty fine. Well, let's turn this around and look at the back. The back of this guy is slightly different to what I'm used to. And the reason is this section here. And I'll be quite honest with you, I have no idea what exactly this is. Because it's built in this way. It's not something that someone's added, because the actual backboard of this turns in and there's this cavity in here. So this radio is actually pushed forward compared to some of the other ones I worked on. And you have, there's additional speaker, a phono jack. This I would expect to be the jack from the signal at the top there. Tape recorder. I can't tell what that is because this is in the way. So you've got all the usual stuff, and then you've got this, which looks like some sort of preamplifier. There are these two RCA inputs over here, which would seem to be sort of left and right inputs. There are two tubes, don't know what they are yet. There are two tubes over there. There's one transformer here, and this thing's definitely a power transformer because it's got the fuses at the top. There's an indicator lamp over here. These two things connected to a wire with two banana plugs on the end. You know, normally I'd expect this to be the antenna, but the antenna comes from inside this. See this here? That goes straight to the antenna inputs over there. I wonder if this is an RF amplifier. Because it's got a switch here, and then there are three controls, 3 pots. And I have no idea what they do. And the reason is I can't find a schematic for this particular model, which is the Phonosuper E dot. I can find Phonosuper 55, 56, 59, but this is a particular model which I believe was just for export. And so this thing is a mystery, but well, it shouldn't be too tough to find. We'll figure it out as we go along. Because what I'm going to do next is I'll open up the back. The back's in pretty good condition. If we look inside, what do we have? We've got a speaker on the left there. It's sort of a, oh, that's a electrostatic tweeter. And that one's another one over there. And then a pretty big speaker in the middle there. We'll see it better when we take it out of the cabinet. The AM antenna. The usual IF transformers. I see an EL84 over there, single EL84 with an output transformer. This looks pretty standard. This is actually on a PC board. So this is probably a later model, maybe even 1960, who knows. And I still don't know what that section in front is doing because I don't see a power transformer in there, so maybe this is part of this is the main power supply. The power cord goes into the back. I can't tell exactly where it's going. So this is going to be a bit of a discovery when I pull it apart, and what I need to do is I need to find a schematic for a model that is as similar to this one as I can get, and then extrapolate from there. I can find the Phonosupers. They've all got FM on there. Some of them have got long wave as well. None of them that I found have 4 shortwave bands, but that's to be expected. These export models were changed somewhat. But I am very, very curious as to what this thing there is doing. Because it certainly looks like some sort of preamplifier, but on the other hand, I've got the wires coming out of here going into the antenna and the earth. So hell, I don't know. Let's discover. I'm going to take this thing out of the cabinet, get it ready on my jig, and the restoration then will begin. Okay, now I'm getting even more confused. I removed this section from the back. This, if you recall, was going to the antenna input, antenna and ground. If I look at the back of this, it seems that the wire is not even connected, so the antenna wasn't getting through. That's the first thing. Secondly, there's quite a lot of components here. There's this transformer, which I don't know what that does. There's a filter cap over here, probably a 2-section filter cap, it seems. This is definitely a power transformer, and I thought this might be the main power transformer, but as we'll see, it's not. Then from here, this wire comes out. This is where that switch is, right? This wire comes out and it seems to feed the power to the motor of the gramophone. So these two wires are power. Okay. This is the gramophone input coming from the top. Coming from the top here, so from the pickup, and this thing was getting stuffed in there, which is the correct spot. Fine. Now put that guy down here, and to remove this, what I'm going to do is I need to loosen this up and get it out of here. So what I'm going to do, I noticed that the two electrostatic tweeters are in parallel, so there's a wire from this one here across to the other one. I'll leave those in there. These wires are coming down to here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip them in a way that I can see where they went. So I'll snip those. The main speaker is actually a broken clip down there. That's going to the output transformer. I'll snip that as well. These tone controls I have to remove and leave it with the chassis. So I'll be able to just pull the chassis out after that and maybe make some more sense of this. So it seems that controls the gramophone. Certainly that on-off switch is powering that gramophone. What the rest of the stuff is doing, I don't know, because the actual signal from the gramophone is not coming from there. It's coming from the top straight into the phono input, which is what it should do. So it almost seems like that is a preamplifier for an external signal source, but then the signal is RF. It's an antenna connector. So maybe that is just an RF amplifier, and they happen to have the on-off switch for the gramophone at the back. This is weird, man. Anyway, I'll carry on and we'll keep discovering some more stuff. I don't know what those tubes are. I can't read what this one is. It actually looks like an EL84, but I don't see any markings, so we'll just have to take it one step at a time again. Okay, one step further. We've got this out. Cut the speakers over there. I've left a little bit of the yellow and the black wire on the speaker, so I know exactly what polarity to do there. I've removed the electrostatic positive from there, left a bit of red. The electrostatic negative goes to the same ground point as the speakers over there, so that's fine. The other thing I found out is this thing actually unplugs. So this makes it a lot easier to work with. That's actually got a socket in there, an octal tube socket, and this thing plugs in there, which is brilliant. You can put that aside, and now we can get a better look at this thing. And first thing I found out here is that there is indeed a transformer in there, power transformer in there. So the one we see on that external unit is not the power transformer, at least not for the radio. It is a power transformer, but we've got the usual antenna inputs in here. The circuitry is mostly on this PC board, which makes it a little bit easier to work with. Some of those capacitors look really done in. A few electrolytics over here. So those are probably all going to have to come out. The power tube is in fact an EL84. A multi-section filter cap over there. Magic eye tube on the front. The output transformer. The dial lamp. Everything is pretty standard over here. We've got an ECH81 mixer oscillator. This is probably an EF89 or something. These are IF. I can't read what they are at the moment, but we'll get to that. The tuning coil. The tuning condenser, beg your pardon. Volume control and switch back here. The dial pointer is in fact moving. Actually, the whole dial cord is working pretty well. Yep, don't have to worry about that, which is a good thing. Let's look underneath. Starting to make a bit more sense out of this. The power cord goes into the fuses on this thing, into the back here. You select the voltage and look what we've got here. We've got a dead cockroach. Brilliant. Love those things when you find them on old wrecks. Then power goes off to, this is probably from one of the windings of the transformer. Probably 110 volts. Goes off to the to that switch that then switches on the power for the gramophone. Okay, so that seems to make sense because the gramophone connects here. That's from a tapping off there, and there's obviously a this is parallel. It's getting weirder. Right. This is getting weirder. This thing is coming from one of the tappings there. Usually what happens is the motor for the gramophone comes from the 110 volt tap. It's probably the same here. It's going to the gramophone and it's going to power the gramophone all the time. Then that same connector goes and powers this thing over here, and it has its switch. So this is not switching the gramophone power, it's using the same power, same voltage as the gramophone. Okay, so that makes a bit of sense. There's the flywheel. The switches seem to be in pretty good shape. Nothing's broken. The underside of the board is pretty grotty as usual, but it's probably not bad. You've got to be careful with these things because when you desolder stuff, those pads can come off pretty easily. Everything is pretty clean. The capacitors need changing. There's quite a few of those caps that need changing. What is that? There's the filter cap. Yeah, this looks pretty standard. It looks like if you took away that thing and you took away the gramophone, the entire radio seems to be here. And I think what I'm going to do is precisely that. I'm going to treat this thing as a unit, see if it'll power up after I do all the checking and replace some of the obvious capacitors, and then move on to there and see what we've got and see if I can't find a schematic for this thing, or if anybody out there has seen this before, if they can tell me where I can get a schematic for this thing. That'll be useful. So yeah, I'm going to get going on this, get cracking, and I'll report back when I have some more news. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon.